Good morning. Welcome to day 7 of Purpose Driven Church for Unificationists. Today we're going to look at chapter 2, Myths about Growing Churches. I love this section. I remember reading it before and I just got so much out of it, so I look forward to sharing it with you all. Rick Warren starts off by saying how a lot of kids grow up hearing different myths, right? The tooth fairy brings you money for your teeth. The Santa Claus brings you presents if you're good. The moon is made out of cheese. Some of these myths aren't really that big of a deal, but some of them, when you find out they're not true, a lot of kids actually become very distraught and actually have a hard time trusting their parents. So it's kind of an interesting point that he's making. He goes on to say that Jesus was very into challenging conventional wisdom or conventional myths, you could say. And he says 20 times in the New Testament that you have heard it said, but I say to you. And basically saying that Jesus, was telling the people, you may have understood things to be a certain way based on your parents or your religious teachers or whatever, but I want to tell you how the way things really are. And that made him very controversial, but also that was very refreshing for people too, I believe. And he goes on to say that many large churches have this kind of myths about them, or you could say stigmas. Many people look at a large church and say, "Oh, look at that! They're so money-oriented," or they water down their message. It's not really biblical or whatever. And then, but he goes on to say that if you're serious about seeing your own church grow, you must be willing to challenge much of the conventional wisdom about large and growing churches that you hear today. I love this concept because I had a very similar experience of challenging my understanding of things when I did the Millionaire Mind seminar many years ago. The Millionaire Mind seminar teaches you about your own concepts and myths about money and wealth. And I had really bad ones. Basically, my concept was that if you're going to be a religious person, then you can't have money. Like, that's just not going to be a part of your life. And it's just as well because wealthy people are greedy and selfish, and they probably stepped on the backs of others to get where they are anyway, and I don't really want to do that. So that was my concept of wealth. That was my concept of money many years ago, and thank goodness I don't have that concept anymore, because that's fundamentally, for example, it's not true, but also because if I ever want to become wealthy in my life, which I do hope to, then there's no way that's ever going to be possible if I dislike wealthy people, because I won't never become that which I dislike. And similarly, our church will never become that which we dislike. If we dislike or have concepts about successful churches, big churches, then naturally we won't become one. So he goes on to say, talk about the first myth. The first myth is the only thing that large churches care about is attendance. He says that attendance campaigns and advertising may bring people to your church once, but they will not come back unless your church delivers the goods. To maintain consistent growth, you must offer people something they cannot get anywhere else. If you are preaching the positive, life-changing good news of Christ, if your members are excited by what God is doing in your church, if you are providing a service where they can bring unsaved friends without embarrassment, and if you have a plan to build, train, and send out those you win to Christ, attendance will be the least of your problems. People flock to that kind of church. So he goes on to say that every church, a genuine church that is growing, has 5 aspects that are in balance. The 5 dimensions of church growth. He says that churches grow warmer through fellowship, they grow deeper through discipleship, they grow stronger through worship, they grow broader through ministry, and they grow larger through evangelism. He says that church growth is a natural result of church health, and church health can only happen when your message is based on truth, the divine principle, in our case, and the true understanding of the Bible, and when your mission is balanced. Balance is the key here. He says that balance in a church does not occur naturally. In fact, we must continually correct imbalance. It is human nature to overemphasize the aspect of the church we feel most passionate about. Intentionally setting up a strategy and a structure to force ourselves to give equal attention to each purpose is what being a purpose-driven church is all about. I love that section, that quote there. I love that concept because I also agree that balance is very important. And if our church community becomes really unbalanced in some way, then we will not grow in a natural, sustainable way. All aspects of church ministry are equally important. Even if Adonia and I feel more passionate about one aspect than another, but we still, that's natural, but we have to recognize that all aspects are important and need to be in balance for us to be able to grow in a sustainable and natural way. And that's what Rick Warren says. That's what he's done. It's worked very well for him. And that's what we're trying to implement. And we're constantly having to correct our imbalance, because it's like constantly happening. But I do believe that that's the correct way to go. So that's this first myth. We'll talk about the second myth tomorrow. All large churches grow at the expense of smaller churches. Ooh. So see you tomorrow. Bye.